We're recording.
Cool.
This is Wrong Speed Record Chat number 18. 1-8. We have Mr. Will Pearce here. Hi, Will.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm all right, mate. Yeah. Little tender today, but yeah.
Remember, we have to go through this hello and how are you thing, even though we've literally just said it 2 or 3 minutes ago.
We've just done it. It's going to be really weird and sterile and awkward now. But
exactly. This is Hollywood. All right. So get in there.
Movie magic.
You are in Sheffield. How's Sheffield?
I'm in Sheffield. Sheffield's great, man. Yeah, loving it. I mean, in a way, I could be anywhere because I'm sort of limited to my own house, pretty much. But yeah, it's good to be back in my hometown, you know.
Yeah, because you moved there how long ago? About a year back now.
Yeah, it was like Christmas 2019 that I moved back. So, in about a year.
Yeah, so we first met. I'm saying around 2013 in Bristol at a Colossus Pohl gig, Pohl, Will's band. Yeah, I always spell it. I feel like I have to. One of them, isn't it? It's one of those words you got to spell.
Exactly. That's by
design. Yeah, so it was a Colossus gig at the Crypt with Pohl and Hacker Farm from deepest rural Somerset. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I'm not sure we even spoke then, to be honest. I don't remember particularly it. I remember the gig, but one of those. And then
I remember the gig very clearly. But yeah, the before and after is hazy.
Yeah,
especially the after.
Yeah, the gig was absolutely monstrous, I thought.
Yeah,
it might have been Adam Reed was putting on gigs in the Crypt in Bristol, and that might have been his first one, maybe.
I think it definitely one of the first.
Yeah,
if not the first. Yeah.
Yeah, and it felt quite. There was like a lot of police around and whatnot, and it was a venue with no toilet, no facilities at all. It was just a crypt.
A literal crypt.
Yeah, and the door was up to about here on me. So I had to almost crawl in, and carrying anything, any amp or any drum was tricky, and the sound was, how would you describe the sound in the crypt?
Sort of enveloping.
Yeah,
so
solid, what is it, 12th century concrete or whatever the hell, stone, whatever the hell they made those things out of. Yeah, and you had to go around, you had to go out of the crypt, onto the road, turn left, go underneath an archway and behind the crypt to take a piss.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah. And yeah, the rivers flowed gold.
Yeah. And the 5-0 turned up, right? And
yeah, it was a lively one.
Yeah.
And but getting up to speed now is here's Will's band here, Pohl. It's a cassette release. This one came out was it late last year or this year?
I don't know. My time frame is just totally.
I'm going to say late last year. So Wrong Speed release, but it came out last year. And before that, Pohl had released maybe a cassette in about 2013 with about 3 or 4 songs on, and then just like some digital thing in between with a couple of songs on, and then this, and that's it, right?
That's it. I mean, I was thinking earlier, we've been together, it will be a decade this year, and we've mustered up 3 EPs,
2 cassettes, and 1 digital release.
They've all come out, well, the other 2 came out on CD as well.
All right, okay, CD.
So, actually, get it back straight.
Did they have a barcode?
Nah.
Well, that's fine. I'm anti-barcode anyway.
There's
no barcodes on Wrong Speed releases. We're not aiming for the charts.
Yeah, this is it.
So you ended up joining Colossus almost like it was kind of in stages in a weird way. I think it's fair to say. So what happened was we had a tour, like a week's tour booked with the band Sumac in Europe. In fact, it was just 5 dates in Europe. And Leon, the guitarist at the time, said he couldn't do it.
Mm.
Rue, one of our guitarists, pretty much mentioned you, because at the time, this is getting convoluted, you and Rue and a couple of others were in a different band together.
That's right. Hidden Kong.
Hidden Kong. And you did play a couple of times, or once or something, right?
2 times.
You played twice, but you did record an album.
Yeah, we recorded an entire album, but it's gathering dust.
An unreleased album, and it's Rue is on drums. So Rue is the Henry Blackett drummer, but Colossus guitarist for a few years. Yourself just on vocals, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And the rest of the lineup?
Justin on guitar and Pete on bass, and they're sort of Yeovil characters. So they've been mates with Tim and Rue since time immemorial, sort of thing.
Yeah. And so you record an album with Ben, who recorded the last Colossus stuff. Finished it essentially, vocals and the whole 9 yards, just totally finished, and then just stop the band. Just stop the band.
Just stop the band. That's how I operate.
And what do you think about that?
I haven't really thought about it for a while, but getting ready to come on the show, I figured it might come up.
Yeah, well,
I thought if only I knew somebody with a label who might be willing to put it out.
And that's the end of the conversation.
Right, yep. Next item of business.
Well, so that's essentially what happened. Is you were in that band. Rue said, "Well, I knew you from Pohl because I'd seen you a whole bunch of times in Bristol."
We played together. Like Pohl and Colossus played together. Was it just that one time, or a couple of times?
Maybe
a couple as well.
Yeah, and we sort of, and then, but really, Rue knew you more before than anyone, and so you come in, you do the sumac dates, and then it just happened that Leon left or whatever, and then you just stuck around. Stuck around. But what was really, but what I will say, what was really impressive to me was that Rue, me, and you had a few get-togethers just as like stringed instruments to learn up the songs as quick as possible for the sumac dates, and you knew the songs better than me and Rue did. Like you totally learnt them up, like all of like Tim's parts or whatever else, and I totally nailed it. And it was it kind of blew my mind a bit. And then I realised very soon after that you were a better guitarist than any of us, and that was the end of it. And that was fine. So yeah, cool. And there we are, and that's the story essentially. Now you're in Sheffield. Colossus haven't done anything for about a year, but we do have some dates booked for the end of this year, and fingers crossed we might even start rehearsing in early summer.
Who knows?
Yeah, but now we're even more geographically irritated because you're there, Chris is in Nottingham, I'm in Somerset, and the other 3 are still in the southeast.
That's right.
But fuck it, we'll work it out.
Yeah, we always do.
But we are here to talk about records, essentially. So I want you to hit me with a record from your favourite record shop, please.
Cool. So my favourite record shop of all time, sadly no longer exists. It was called Rare and Racy, and it was a bit of a Sheffield institution. Like it wasn't even strictly speaking a record shop. It was kind of a bookshop that sold vinyl records and CDs and art prints and just all sorts of weird ephemera. It was a bit like, Electric Ladyland in Bristol, that guitar shop near the Exchange.
Yeah.
Where it's kind of like, it's a shop, but it's kind of like part museum.
It's also never open, correct?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's like the 3rd Wednesday of every month or whatever. And that's my deal. And it's like when you go in there, it's like you're walking into like the eccentric owner, and it's like you're walking into their head. Pretty much. It was that sort of setup. But no, it was a really cool place, and I think it was going from like the late '60s until not that long ago. I think it shut down about 5 years ago. It was in Sheffield city centre, and it's like the classic story. I think their lease run out, and then everything around it was being turned into luxury flats that nobody can afford to live in, and the rest is history. And it's sort of been in the news again recently because there's talk of demolishing the building that it was once housed in to make way for even more luxury flats. So, but anyway, the records that I bought from there.
Yeah.
First one is this one.
Throbbing Gristle. Yeah.
Yeah. So I started going to Racy when I was in sort of 16. And I was properly getting into music, and I just wanted the weirdest, heaviest, darkest shit that I could get my hands on.
Yeah.
And I was buying a lot of stuff purely based on the cover. So I saw this. It's like, you've got a skull.
Yeah.
Tick. There's a bit of text that says, "Can the world be as sad as it seems?" That's another tick. Turn it over. Even if the live sound of Throbbing Gristle. And I'd not heard Throbbing Gristle at that point, but I spent a lot of time just reading about bands on Wikipedia,
right,
which was then new. And I'd heard of Throbbing Gristle, and I bought it and blew my tiny mind.
It's still, well, if you put it on now, like any of their records, it still sound gnarly as hell, right?
Totally. I put it on last night. And I thought I was going to have a panic attack. It's so intense.
Still,
really insane. I think Pohl talks about Throbbing Gristle, right?
He might have. They're a band that come up regularly. I mean, I like them, and I'm endlessly conflicted by them, but I like them.
I don't know if liking them kind of.
I have it to hand here, and I've mentioned it in another episode, but I always like to mention it. If people haven't read this book,
right? No, I've not read that.
People need to read this book because
cool.
It's Cozy Fanny Tutti from Throbbing Gristle, and it's like her story from being young and in Hull all the way through to like now, give or take, and it really I still like Throbbing Gristle, but it's really a tough read, especially if you're a massive like Genesis P-Orridge fan or something, and you read this and you're like, ugh, sort of thing.
Yeah, I've heard. Quite problematic.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, anyhow, there we are. I don't want to go off topic. What else did you pick up in that shop? Oh, you have more than one CD in your hand now. That's
right, yeah. I think because they're CDs, because when I was that age, it was all about CDs for me, really. This is 3 compositions by John Cage. Whoa. So this one, it's a bit of a weird route that I took to it. So like, I used to, of an evening, have a nice bath and listen to the John Peel show on Radio 1. That was my like evening routine in the week. And I was doing that one night, and the radio was tuned into like some other station. So I was trying to find Radio 1, but I landed on Radio 3 by mistake. Oh, yeah. And they happened to be playing Souvenir by John Cage on the accordion, played by somebody called Teodoro Anzalotti. Right. I don't know if you're into Italian accordion players.
I'm boned up on them normally, but this one is
obviously, and it was like I say, around that age I was just like really into anything heavy and weird and dark, and that piece of music was all of those things, but it wasn't a bunch of like Sun City amps or whatever. It was like a person playing an accordion, and it kind of opened my ears to the fact that you could be heavy without being balls to the wall, loud, riffs or whatever, you know. And yeah, I heard that purely by chance, and then I happened to go to Rare and Racy on the weekend, which I did most weekends, and they had the CD in there, so it just felt sort of faithful.
Yeah.
And also, like, it's got this these sort of explanatory notes inside, and the music is composed sort of stochastically using the I Ching, so it's all by chance. It's a bit like what's the Eno like card system?
Oh yeah, I know the one. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
That sort of vibe. So yeah, it all just felt quite sort of fateful.
Yeah, and that's a mid-60s thing. I think I saw the year. Did you say 64?
Well, so there's 3 compositions. The first one is 1948. The next one is 1969. Then the next one is 1984. So
wow.
Yeah.
Weird album then, to mix it up like that.
Yeah, and you can imagine as a sort of like late teens guy getting into weird arty shit.
Yeah.
It was like, perfect. I'll take that, you know. And it's a weird sort of corduroy finish on the CD.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice, and yeah, there's a sort of cigarette stain there.
Lovely. It's good to have a story on a sleeve.
Yeah. I mean, it's sort of totally ruined now, but
corduroy is going to come back in a big way soon. I feel like it flirts with coming back, but never fully lands, does it?
No. Yeah. But soon, I think 2021 might be the year.
And I'm talking chunky corduroy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, not like
none of this like thin piping.
No, like
get out of here.
Absolute wedges, like Twixes.
Exactly.
But on that note, on the I had a similar experience with there's a Tony Conrad album called 4 Violins, and it was a similar thing for me where I heard it and I couldn't believe the noise I was hearing. It's from a similar era and everything else, and like, you know, I think it's like sometime in the 60s and whatever. The album's on Table of Elements Records. And I had a similar thing where it was hefty as hell, but it was 4 violins. Yeah. And you think, oh, that's, you know, it's not something I listen to every day, but when you put it on, it really like wakes you up.
Yeah. It's like kind of less is more.
Yeah.
Really
actually, because on that note, I'm going to mention it now then. So we were talking earlier about Adam Reed, and he used to put on, or still does put on, let's say, despite no one's putting anything on. Yeah. So he used to put on a thing called cacophonous sarcophagus.
Yeah.
So it looks like that. And this is a poster actually that Will did for a gig that we did at the Old England. Anyhow, but really, I want it to show the word cacophonous sarcophagus. But one of the best things he put on, and it's a band that a lot of people are kind of into at the minute, and they've got a new album out on about 42 different labels, is, did you go to that gig?
No, they're like Indonesian, right?
Right, yeah, it's like a duo with yeah, so, and it's like simple, like vocal, like interesting instruments, like hefty but interesting, and it's a similar sort of thing where you go, okay, that's a heavy band, but not in the trad sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so, but that was a good one, and that was in the big church there, whatever the hell that big church is called.
The one near the Fleece?
Yeah, I don't know the names of these places. I don't. Bristol's not my thing. Bristol. I'm an hour south. What the hell do I know?
I only lived there for a decade. You know.
You did a whole 10 years. You lived there. 10 years.
Yeah. Crazy. Seems like about 5 minutes now.
Hit me with a record with memories.
Record of memories. Yeah. So like, I instantly knew what I would choose for this category. And that is Lou Reed, Transformer.
Cool.
Like, yeah, who doesn't love this record? So this actual copy that I'm holding in my hands is, or was, my mum's. And I sort of pilfered it from her record collection. when I left home, and it's like it was on in the house when I was a young kid, so it's sort of part of my musical DNA, and it's been with me ever since. I still put it on fairly regularly.
Yeah,
so much time for it, and it's just nice to think of like my mum as a teenager or whatever, listening to it, and then like I think she said she pinched it off one of her older sisters, so it's sort of like a bit of a family heirloom.
Yeah.
You know, maybe someone will steal it off me one day.
Yeah, me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
maybe. And yeah, I suppose as well, if you want to talk about memories in a more abstract sense, like I think some music really evokes a specific time and place, and this record is so New York in the 1970s, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It really conjures up.
Yeah.
That
in regard New York in that era, I would I still sort of want to be dropped in to like the Lower East Side or something in 1978 or even like 1980, you know, just to see it. I kind of, you know, I want to just be dropped somehow safely, dropped in just to see it. Like you hear all the stories, all the great music that came out from through the 70s through to the early 80s from.
It's just wild, man.
Yeah, like sort of, so Velvet Underground there.
Yeah.
To Lou Reed on his own, all the way up to sort of Bad Brains and the Cro-Mags.
Yeah.
There's like a 10 or 15 year period. And early hip hop, like, you know, Beastie Boys or whatever.
Yeah.
There's a 10 or 15 year period in New York's history that I would want to be a tourist at just for a day, just to go, boom, here you are. Just so I can run away and go, okay, I don't ever want to go back there again. It's an absolute fucking frightful nightmare. But you see the pictures. Yeah. You see the pictures, and somehow you want to be there, like the burnt out houses, the city that's gone bust.
Yeah, it's like the murder capital of the world at that time, I think, right? Yeah. It's like
exactly. Yeah. And then, of course, the no wave scene that came out of it as well, with like Glenn Branca and DNA and whoever else was doing their thing with all of that. It's quite a
and then sort of, I don't know, Talking Heads.
Yeah.
And that's the sort of mainstream poppy end.
Exactly. Exactly. And you know, we probably know 1% of what the hell is going on musically. So totally. You know, like you say, I've probably just named the most mainstream acts that came out of it. But goddamn, like it must have been
that's the iceberg, right?
Yeah, would have been felt like a really exciting place to be. So yeah, so that album does totally scream mid-70s New York.
Yeah.
It's got Walk on the Wild Side right on there, and
yeah.
Which I know is a really big song, but did you watch the have you seen about the making of that song?
Was it part of that BBC documentary about sort of the role of bass?
It might be. Yeah, it was either a BBC or one of those like a greatest album type, like a session musicians.
Yeah.
Like if you listen to the bass on that song, like it's one of the first where it's like an electric bass going up and the double bass going down. So they're mixed up.
Like overdubbed, right? It's like the slide up and the slide down.
Yeah.
And I think he was a session musician, right? And he got paid like $50.
Yeah. And he came up with it. Exactly. And the session musician came up with it.
And of course it was sampled. It's like, it's one of the most iconic kinds of all time.
But it's such a big song. You feel like you shouldn't talk about it because everyone knows Walk on the Wild Side and stuff. But if you actually listen, especially to the damn bass on that song.
And that was just a bunch of people in a room, you know, matey was there with his bass going doom doom.
Yeah.
And said, that sounds cool. Let's do that.
Yeah. And I'll chuck a double bass over it as well. And that's why it sounds so like different to everything else. And who is it? Is it Tribe Called Quest or someone else? Someone like that sample?
Tribe Called Quest, right? Yeah.
Yeah, which is probably where I first heard it, actually. But
same,
But,
well, speaking of New York, I've gotten a little Brucey bonus in terms of albums of memories. Like I did Lockdown 1.0 with my mum and her husband, and I found a bunch of my old CDs, including 36 Chambers, Wu-Tang Clan.
Yeah.
And it's just been in the car ever since. Like, I got into this album when I was like 12 or 13. I got my dad to order it me off a then novel website called Amazon.
Yeah.
And but it's just so strong. And I thought I'd talk about it because, again, in your chat with Pohl, you guys were talking about artists who make their own sort of musical world.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Wu-Tang.
And I think Wu-Tang Clan is like one of the best examples of that, and particularly that album.
Yeah.
And as like a 12, 13-year-old kid, it's like just tick so many boxes, like kung fu, graphic violence, like gritty inner city stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's such an incredible album. Like,
still
it sounds so fresh.
Nice.
And it's sort of like, in a way, it sounds very New York and all the rest of it, but it's because it's its own little world. I think it's kind of timeless, you know.
I'd agree.
It doesn't sound dated in any way.
It's a marvelous record. Of course it is. Yeah, and they talk about like chess on there, like playing chess.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the mystery of chess boxing. And it's got humor, but it's also like really kind of gritty social document. Like there's substance to it.
Tell you where I bought my copy of that on vinyl. I had a cassette of it for years and years and years. I bought my copy of that on vinyl in Sainsbury's.
Nice.
Yeah, like a couple of years ago they had it in there because our Sainsbury's sells like about 10 or 12 different records each week. Like you go in there and there's like a Best of the Kinks or Adele or or whatever. But yeah, they had Wu-Tang in there, so I was like,
no way.
Yeah. That's like
cool.
$12.99.
I like that one actually. I've only got the CD, but
yeah, well, it was the same for me. In fact, yeah, I think I had the CD, not the tape. It was a CD, and then couldn't resist. I was like, okay, we're gonna get some cornflakes, need garlic, need some Wu-Tang,
marvelous
deodorant. That's my list done. I'm out of there.
He's an offer.
Yeah.
Nice.
Frickin' supermarkets, love it. Hit me with a bargain find.
Bargain find. So I mean, I don't know that it's much of a bargain because I don't think it's particularly worth that much. But I remember I found Psychic, Powerless, Another Man's Sack by Butthole Surfers in a charity shop in Bristol for like 50p. It's probably worth £5 or maybe even 10, who knows. And it was just a sort of an unexpected find, you know. It's like quite a niche thing, you think. It's not what you expect to see in the Cats Protection League shop. But I remember I found that and I was totally stoked. And then I went for a drink with my friend Fergus, and I got the bus home and I left it on the bus. So in its stead, I've got Highway to Stephen by Butthole Surfers.
What a cover, yeah.
Yeah, I think I actually bought this at the Corn Exchange in Leeds. There was like a record fair that I would go to occasionally, and I bought it from there. And yeah, I mean, Butthole Surfers, all this stuff. It's like, how could I resist?
No, exactly.
You know. And then another bargain find is, again, it's worth fuck all. Maybe I paid over the odds, but I bought the best of Tammy Wynette for 99p from a charity shop, and it's like, I've just got a lot of joy out of it for a very small amount of money.
Well, that makes it a bargain then, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
On a sort of joy per pence, you know.
Like, you know, the thing is if it was worth, at what point would you sell it? Like, if it was, like, I've got records that I bought for cheap that are now worth quite a bit, but I'm not going to sell. So, like, it doesn't really matter what something's worth.
No.
And who knows, maybe but that's not really the point, is it? It's like, if it was 99p and you've listened to it loads, then it's a bargain. Like, because I have this thing, like, you know, I read books, not as much as I used to. I don't think anyone reads as much as they used to, and anyone who says they do is possibly lying.
Oh,
like, you know, I'm a big reader, you know. You're not. And I don't mean that. It's just one of those things, isn't it? Like our life is just everyone's life.
Our collective attention span has just been
woeful. Exactly. People would rather look at their phone when they're lying in bed rather than spend half an hour reading a book. That's the impression I'm getting. Anyhow, I will buy a book for 10 or 15 quid and read it once. You know, whereas you'll buy a record and you listen to it loads. So a 99p record that you listen to 50 times in your life, we're talking proper value for money.
Value for money. Oh yeah, big time.
Like, because you buy a book for a quid, you're only going to read it once. You buy a book for 20 quid, you're very unlikely to read it more than once or twice in your whole life.
Yeah.
You think? I mean, how many books have you read?
Imagine reading a book 5 times.
It's weird, isn't it? Like, I mean, have you got any books that you've read like numerous times? You've gone back to, I really want to read Adrian Mole again or whatever. I know you're a big Adrian Mole fan.
I'm not saying this to sound impressive, I swear, but I've read Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky like 3 times.
Whoa.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I really like that book. But I mean, yeah, that's an exception to the rule. Most books I get about a third of the way through, give up, stick it on the shelf, never look at it again, you know?
Shelf classic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's if I even get around to reading it. There's so many that I haven't even picked up. The spine is completely unblemished.
Yeah, sometimes you just got to get them, give them a bit of a fold, turn a few corners, and then just put them up on the shelf.
All that, yeah.
I barely make it for a film now. Like,
yeah.
You know, I'll get if a film doesn't grab me massively halfway through, I'll just give up. I've given up on films with 10 minutes to go. Like, I'll be like, oh, I'm done. Never go back to it. If I open up my Netflix thing, it's like, do you want to continue watching any of it? It's almost like it's crying when it's asking me, please finish watching like Castaway.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't give a shit. I'm
absolutely done. I'm watching like The Deer Hunter now. That film's like 3.5 hours long or something.
Yeah. It's just got to let the dog out. Hold on.
God, Monty.
I know. Well,
what is he in the room with you now?
He was on my lap. Yeah.
Was he?
Now he's not. Yeah. He was hanging out with you.
I'm gonna say you probably heard my voice and just gravitated.
Exactly.
I had no idea.
Yeah. I thought his head popped up once or twice, but you know. So for those still watching, Will lived in this house for a few weeks, over a reasonable period of time, and especially when Elisa, my wife, was in hospital having surgery. Will came and moved into our house to look after Monty the dog and Freddie the youngest. I'm not really sure Freddie needed much looking after, but really it was quite handy having. It's quite handy for Freddie having someone here to share his weed with.
Oh.
But yeah, so hence Monty is a big fan of Will, but he's gone. He's done the offs. Hit me with a record bought on tour.
A record bought on tour. So, again, there was an immediate candidate for this, but Chris beat me to it.
Oh, yeah.
Just wanted to reiterate.
No, it's a Colossus classic.
It really is, and I mean, I think it's just a nice example of how context can like really make a piece of music, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, this record means a hell of a lot to us because we were there in that van that night, and everyone else, you know.
Well, I think we all ended up with a copy. I think we all ended up buying that over the course of the next, if not right then, certainly over the next month or two. It was just one of them records that was the soundtrack to a particular journey at a particular time. Yeah. And it was marvelous. If anyone, I'm not going to particularly repeat it, but go back to the Chris Cole. Go back to the Chris's episode. I'm drinking this Patronus. It's Lidl 69p. It's making me feel a bit gaseous.
It looks gassy. It looks weepy.
Yeah. 69 newpence. Yeah, so that record, it means a lot. So go back to the Chris episode for the full story on it, because it's it's,
I mean, it helps that it's a great record as well.
It is a great record. Yeah.
Context helps, but we could have been listening to, I don't know, Old Pop in an Oak by Rednecks.
Yeah.
Which is obviously awful. But yeah, that's a really good record. So yeah, it
helps.
And then we've covered that ground. So
yeah.
This is Kill Her with Kindness, and again, I didn't actually buy it on tour, but when we did the Mark Riley Six Music session.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I think just before we played our first song, and we were all brooking it.
I can still feel the nerves now.
Yeah, my heart rate is elevated just talking about it, to be honest. He played, I think it was No Control off this record, and it was I don't know if it was some kind of like weird hysterical reaction, but like it was just a moment of calm. I was like, this is great. I really do this. I'm going to look this up. And I did, and yeah, I'm glad that I did so. It's a really good album, and Kill Her, her name is Rose Keeler Schaffer, and she records like sort of lo-fi, sort of weird psych pop nuggets to tape. Like she's got like a tape machine, and she's got a huge backlog of stuff on Bandcamp.
Right.
We're following on Instagram, digging into her stuff, Yeah.
So the band name is Kill Her.
Kill Her, yeah.
Right. Okay. Cool. And where'd you get it?
I can't remember. I think I bought it online, maybe from her Bandcamp.
Right. Yeah.
Can't remember, to be honest.
No.
My memory. I don't have your memory, man.
No. Well, my memory for buying records is more the older one, like when I was young, more than last few years. It's definitely blurred into I don't know, it could have been anywhere type thing. And
yeah, that's a good point. Like you can pick up records online, and yeah. Exactly. They just show up at your door.
Yeah, they did today. Even today, it says today. Oh, by the way, today's a Sunday, and I had a record in the post today. So.
Yeah, what was that?
Yeah, mental. Got what did I get? Got Don Cherry album today.
Don
Cherry, yeah. Where are we? Record bought on tour. Record that people wouldn't think that you would dig.
Yeah, so I guess if you play in like noisy guitar bands, people might think that you only listen to noisy guitar music. And that's sort of less and less the case for me the older I get. Not that I have anything against noisy guitar music, but there's just more out there, isn't there? But also, like, I know I've spoken about weirdness and weird music and like John Cage and Throbbing Gristle and all the rest of it, but like, I have no problem with mainstream commercial chart music. I like Madonna, I like ABBA and all the rest of it. So one album in that vein that I've vibed to a lot recently is Folklore by Taylor Swift.
Yeah, right.
I don't know if it's so this came out last year, and I think it's fair to say that it's been a bit of a brutal year as years go, and it's just nice. And whether you kind of like her music or not, there's no denying that she's like a genius level songwriter.
Right.
I think.
I've seen a lot of people talk about that record, and I've not properly checked it out. Yeah.
I don't know if you dig it or not. I think it's great. Like, it's a double album, and like, the second disc especially is really awesome. Like, in reviews, people say it's like folky. I necessarily agree with that, but it's kind of folk inflected indie pop.
Yeah.
And it's got kind of shoegazy textures. It's got sort of like a 4AD vibe, like Cocteau Twins almost.
Right. Okay.
It's just, yeah, that kind of music written by Taylor Swift with like, really like catchy, hooky melodies and, like the best production that money can buy.
Yeah.
It's a joyous thing.
It looks like it looks good. The record looks, it looks like proper, like sort of.
It would catch my eye if I saw that in a record shop and I'd never heard of Taylor Swift. I'd be like, cool. I'd probably gamble on that. And
I'd agree with there's an element of snobbiness about pop music, maybe.
Yeah.
That so with Taylor Swift doing a record that looks like that is kind of somehow conflicting a lot of pitchforky indie types. Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're like thinking, okay, I like it and it looks great, but it's Taylor Swift. I listen to a lot of Radio 1 and 2 at work, just in the van while I'm driving around because I like to. And I do think that it's quite nice when pop music is done well. And I never used to like it and still don't like it when a guitar band starts being in the charts a lot and then their music starts changing into like, I think like your sort of your Coldplays and your Muses and stuff. That is the sort of top 40 stuff I cannot stand.
Yeah.
Whereas I do quite like just a well-made pop song.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? So I'm trying to think of an example. I'd never really know the names, but if a good pop song comes on, I'm all in. But if a guitar song that is in the top 40 gets in, I just think somehow it's been watered down to such a level that its suckometer has been raised right up. And those Coldplay Muse type bands, Manic Street Preachers, I cannot abide it. It just, when I hear them on the radio, I'd just rather like, please just keep it to your basic pop music.
Yeah. Whereas if something is unabashedly pop from the get-go,
yeah,
then that's what it is, rather than a guitar band who have made a bunch of concessions.
That's what it feels like.
In order to become popular.
Yeah, and yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But yeah, pop has become a sort of dirty word. And there is a lot of dross out there these days. It has become very homogenized. But that doesn't mean that there isn't good stuff out there.
No, well, there's a lot of people that have been watching like all the Top of the Pops reruns, so Top of the Pops 1980 and Top of the Pops 1984. And I see people going, God, wasn't it a great year? Right? Because they pick a Top of the Pops and it's got Human League on it or Dexy's Midnight Runners and I don't know, maybe Pet Shop Boys or whoever, and they're all doing. But really, you're just showing the cream of the crop because actually, it's still terrible. It's ultimately.
Oh yeah, 99% of the stuff that was coming out around that time was
it's like, it's like watching Match of the Day where you'll watch the highlights of West Ham versus Fulham, and the highlight reel is 3 minutes long. And you come away thinking, cool, that looked like a good game. But actually, that means there's 87 minutes of pure arse. And they've just totally cropped it out, And that's kind of what those old Top of the Pops reruns are. So they've had to cut out all the rubbish music and all the sexual offenders that used to present it. So you're left with only that's kind of thing. That's totally. Pop music covered, is it? Have we covered pop music?
Well, one thing I would say, one caveat to that is, I think in those days you would get the odd outlier, like "Oh Superman" by Laurie Anderson.
Oh yeah.
Like, what's that, like 8 minutes long?
Yeah.
With vocoder track, and then is it "Ghosts" by Japan?
Yeah.
It's weird dirge, and they were huge hits.
Yeah.
And I just can't. That just doesn't happen anymore.
No.
You actually,
I talk about it a lot with Stan. So Stan's my oldest son. He's 20, heading to 21 now. And if we watch if we watch something like a Talking Heads video or something, he's amazed that is, top 20 music. from 1980.
Yeah.
Because it's just so weird, and the people aren't particularly attractive, you know, in the modern sense, should I say? You know, even though they clearly are, but not in the modern brushed up sort of way of what people look like.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's yeah. I was let's just switch the subject up here. Here's a record that you bought me.
Go on.
And you bought it from a secondhand shop in Glastonbury. And it's Thomas Dolby, The Flat Earth.
Yeah. What do you reckon?
I want you to talk about it.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, that's a great example.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah.
Freaky. I mean, his big song was "She Blinded Me with Science." I actually hate that song. I don't think it's representative of his music particularly. It's a bit of a gimmicky, weird thing. But I mean, the rest of his music is like, it's arty and it's kind of cinematic in scope. And it represents, there's a sort of like, it reminds me of Talking Heads a little bit. There's a sort of maverick, oddball sort of sensibility.
Yeah.
That he captures very well. So yeah, there's The Flat Earth. I think he did like 3 or 4 albums, but his first 2.
Is that him panning for gold there? Is he panning for gold on the front?
I mean, come on.
I wonder if he found any.
I think he did all right. I'm pretty sure he invented the synthesizer that, like, you know, ringtones were a big thing on mobile phones.
Yeah.
Like, you could download Mambo No. 5
as
a ringtone on your Nokia 3310. I mean, you probably have one now, right?
Don't. No. I'm not going to show it because I get mocked. Like, I am not in the Colossus WhatsApp group. Put it that way.
You're incapable of using WhatsApp. You don't have a smartphone, which I think is admirable. But yeah, so the synthesizer that plays the ringtones on old ass caveman phones like yours was invented by Thomas Dolby.
Really?
I think. I might be totally wrong about that. But
well,
I think
you could be right.
This is after his like big pop career. But yeah, The Flat Earth and his first record, The Golden Age of Wireless. Both were checking out, I think. Just like synth pop. But yeah, just very intelligent and super catchy and weird.
Yeah.
And yeah, they charted, like, he had a bunch of songs that charted and all the rest of it and did pretty well.
Yeah.
And I just can't imagine stuff like that breaking through at all anymore. And it's not that the talent isn't there. There's a sort of boomer attitude that, like, our music was so much better in the olden days. It's like, the cool music is still there, but for various reasons, it doesn't become popular. It doesn't end up getting played on Radio 1, for instance.
Yeah, I guess the world is different. Everything's
it's
finding its own route through. So yeah. I was wondering, actually, we're coming towards the end, and you've not mentioned any prog. And
am I not? Is there any prog? I'm not sure.
And the reason I mention that is because, like, you're someone that certainly with the writing of the last Colossus record brought a couple of songs in. You put more than a couple of songs in, but I'm just talking about these couple of songs that had like the sort of the time signature, you know, things and whatnot, and they clearly come from your love of that sort of thing. And I was wondering if you had a thought on that and prog in modern music, or what you liked about it in particular. I am not a massive fan of prog. I famously was called out on Six Music for preferring Phil Collins fronted Genesis to
I do.
Peter Gabriel's fronted Genesis. I'm not a big prog person, but you are, right? Or up to a point?
Well, I guess in terms of, like, you know, when you asked about records that people might not think that I like, whatever, like, I thought the prog thing might come up. Like I like prog. That's a little subsection of things that I like. But I like all sorts of music. But yeah, I like the weird time signature thing, especially the album that turned me on to that stuff was Red by King Crimson, which I've spoken about in interviews and stuff before. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of modern music that is influenced by prog, like King Gizzard.
Yeah.
I know that's a bit of a, I don't know, bête noire for you guys.
What?
Maybe.
Or King Gizzard?
Well, King Gizzard.
Well, I don't really know them. I don't know them.
I think they rule,
right.
Personally. Well, maybe they've gone off the boil a little bit. They've been around for like, I don't know. They've probably been around for the same time period as Pohl. But during that time, they've done, I think, 17, 18 albums. And they were kicking out. Yeah, they've covered a lot of ground in that time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I like prog, man. And there's a lot of garbage as well. I mean, it would have been when I was at the age when I was like hoovering up weird shit like this.
Mm.
The idea of listening to Rush would have been anathema to me. But I had a bit of an epiphany a few years ago where I realised like I don't necessarily need stuff to be credible or cool,
no,
or dark or underground. It's like that classic thing. There's good music and bad music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, oh yeah. I was just wondering if anyone was going to come up because I couldn't find any prog. Like I say, I don't really have any particularly. I do. Although, if this is prog, then I have this. I think I do like this record. Okay. I don't know if it's prog, for one. But
oh yeah.
Is it prog?
I think it's probably prog. Yeah. Sitting on a park bench, all that jazz. Yeah.
I like this record, so maybe I like prog, right?
You like music, dude?
Yeah. Look at that.
Yeah, I've got it on CD. I mean, come on.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Which one?
I mean, prog is a bit of it's a mixed bag.
Yeah.
There's really awesome stuff, and with a lot of prog, like an album like that, you can sift through. There'll be a song that's like 13 minutes long, and there'll be a passage within it that has like, for 30 seconds, it'll be the heaviest, darkest, gnarliest riff you've ever heard. You're like, wow, this is amazing. And the rest of it is sort of panpipes and just dodgy crap.
That's kind of what I think about Rush. I watched that. I really like, because we talked about Rush quite a bit. I think like we sat next to each other in the front of the van for miles and miles and miles. So
yeah,
conversation switches. But there was that Rush film, that the film and Rush, and I really liked the film about the band Rush.
Yeah, whatever you think of Rush, it's well worth watching that film.
Yeah, it's a brilliant film, and like their story was really excellent. And then after that, it made me go and check them out. So I went to check them out, and I was like, oh, because it's exactly that. It's like an excellent riff buried in a sea of like stuff that I can't get my head around. It doesn't mean it's bad. I just couldn't twig it. I was like, lads, you got a great riff there. Like,
just do that for 20 minutes.
Do it. Stop messing about. Like, don't bore us. Get to the chorus. Like.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyhow, I was just wondering if it was going to come up, and we're now heading to the last thing, and it hasn't. So I thought I'd raise it up just as a something for you to, yeah.
Well, no, not particularly. No.
Hit me with a favorite 10-inch.
Yeah, this is a tough one for me, man. Like 10 inches haven't particularly been on my radar.
No.
As a matter of fact, this is the sum total of the 10 inches that I own. You've got 30 inches total. So, so this is Tough Love, Dross EP. They're I want to say they're a two-piece. I don't know if they are. I mean, there's two of them on the cover. I think it's them two and a drummer.
Right.
And there's been a bit of a rotating drummer. And I think they're from Glasgow. And it's like kind of grungy indie pop.
Right.
I think I heard it randomly on like Mark Riley years ago, and I just really dug it. The song Slammer in particular, I bought it on the strength of that song. It's cool, I like it.
Yeah, don't know him.
And then I've got the Magpie Arc EP2. I bought this a few Bandcamp Fridays ago. They're a sort of folk rock. They're a Sheffield band. It's folk rock, and I heard them on Sheffield Live, which is a local Sheffield station.
Yeah. Which
has been really nice. There's a real community of,
right.
Yeah, that's cool. Bought that Bandcamp Friday. And then finally, I've got this Duke Ellington 10-inch. Here he is, the monster.
It's Will. Yeah, he used to walk you.
Evil. Yes. Like my granddad is really into Duke Ellington, and I've got a bunch of Duke Ellington records of his, including this 10-inch. It's mono. It's cool. It's trad, jazz, ragtimey type stuff. Yeah, and that's it. I think those are all the 10 inches I own.
Yeah, it's a format that's dividing people for sure. Yeah.
I mean, in my 33 years on this earth, I've been through so many formats, man. Like it was cassettes originally, and then CDs, a brief foray into mini discs. You had downloads, streaming.
Yeah.
Then vinyl again. It's like, it's like to get ahead.
Yeah, do you have, because both my boys have never bought a single piece of physical music in their life.
Really? Yeah, because I know Stan is like particularly big into his music, and I wondered if he was a vinyl guy or...
No, nothing.
No, just streaming.
Yeah, YouTube mainly, I believe.
Really, right.
Always got his headphones on, always listening to music.
Yeah.
Not put a cent into the industry whatsoever.
Nice. Good on him.
Like, what do you think about that? Have you any thoughts on that? Do you have a...
I have a lot of thoughts about it, man, because I remember we sort of talked about, maybe I shouldn't say this.
Go for it.
But like with Dancer's Curses, there was talk of not putting it out on streaming services at all.
Yeah.
And just having it physical, right? And I think physical media and like buying vinyl records is a rich person's hobby these days.
Right.
Because you're looking at like, what, sort of 20 quid per record?
Potentially, yeah.
You're like, in your early 20s, you're on minimum wage, 0 hours contract. You're paying like most of your pay packet to live in a room in a shared house. And you're getting booted out every 6 months. You can't be expected to have this big collection of plastic discs to cart around with you.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, I know in your day you could waltz down to Woolworths and buy the latest Fugazi for 2 and 6 or whatever. But nowadays it's like 20 quid a pop.
I'm not rising. I'm not going to rise.
But yeah, it's like, you're looking at like 20 quid, 17, 18, 19 quid for a record these days. And like, people just don't have the money. And, in an ideal world, people would be buying vinyl records and all the rest of it. But it's just, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. Or in an ideal world, somehow the money would trickle down from streaming to the right people. That would be the ideal world, because we played in Liège. Colossus played in Liège, like whenever the hell we were last in Europe, 2019. And I remember there was a guy there looking at everything, and he was like, "Oh, is this the new one?" And Lise was running the merch. He was like, "Oh yeah, that's the recent one or whatever." And then this is the one before, and this is that and that and that and all this. And he was like, "Oh, I don't buy records because of the environment," he said.
I think that's a valid point. as well.
There was that. So there's that angle as well, and I was like, okay,
Yeah.
brilliant. Cheers. But you know, but like, I get it, but that's another angle, isn't it?
It is another angle. I think that's sort of valid as well, man. And I think as consumers, people are now used to being able to play any album that they want, that they can think of, at the touch of a button. You don't have to save up your money and go down to the record shop and buy a piece of plastic. You can just, you've got a whole world of music at your fingertips. And for better or worse, like, that's the way it is. And people aren't going to go back. Yeah, so I think what we need to do, I think we can make streaming work. At the moment, streaming doesn't work for artists or labels. It works for a handful of tech gurus, like a bunch of billionaire white guys in the coastal US, and that's fucked. But I think there has to be a way of making it work more equitably for artists and labels.
Yeah, I agree.
And I don't think we can go backwards and have everything on vinyl again. Like, I love vinyl. I love records.
Yeah.
I think for the heads who are into it, it's great. But for the majority of people, they're not fussed. And it's like, you know, I was thinking the other day, like, we like buying vinyl records and we like music. But you've got people who are into film. Like, do you buy DVDs? Do you support art house cinemas? Or do you pay a tenner a month to watch Netflix?
Yeah, exactly. It's the same.
Yeah.
But I wonder if, I somehow wonder if the film industry has nailed it better. Somehow. Because Netflix make films. Don't they? So, like, you know, that a new Nicolas Cage film might come out and it's actually been financed and funded by Netflix.
Yeah.
And maybe when Netflix has a film on its streaming service, they pay the right amount for it, and then they have it for half a year, and then it goes off again. Like when Channel 4 has a film, and then it's on Channel 4 one night, and More 4 the next night, and 4 Plus whatever, you know. And they I don't really know the details, but maybe they pay the right amount to have it for that period, so the money does go to the right place.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, you know, like one of the songs on the last Colossus album has had quite a lot of plays on Spotify, like way more than we've ever had.
Like 6 figures, right?
Yeah, like a stupid amount. But my guess is we'll get pennies. And I just, this topic of conversation is kind of enormous in its way. I think two things as well is that I think that for me, if I listen to a download or a stream, it's just not the same.
No.
So I wonder whether people are just missing out on. I can't speak for everyone else, but for me, it just doesn't work. It doesn't move the same emotion in me to listen like that.
Yeah, I get that. And there's a thing where like I have Spotify and I rate it, and it's good for discovering new stuff. And it's good for listening to things that I don't necessarily want to own. But I will, like, I've got like hundreds of playlists that I've made. And sometimes I will listen back to these playlists and I will hear a song on the playlist and it's like, I don't recognize it. It's like I've never heard this song in my life. Whereas when you buy a record, it gets embedded. Do you know what I mean? And like, just pure out of laziness, because you can't be asked to put a different record on. You'll just listen to the same one again.
Yeah, there's an investment to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think? Like, yeah. Like, and like, just gonna sort of alter the subject slightly. This last year, I've particularly been getting into one label, and it's that International Anthems label, right?
Yeah, you told me about that.
And I would, you know, and like I could listen to this music online, and I did listen to it. That's how I discovered it. Like through their Bandcamp page, I'm listening. I go, I can't believe how good this is. And now I've ended up buying the records and the albums, and I'm falling in love with them in a way bigger way than if I was just streaming them. And it's this one in particular
Oh yeah, that is so strong, man.
Yeah, the McKay McCraven record is like a triple LP, and what they do, and this is the sort of stuff that people who just listen to the streaming would never quite get. It's the little details with this. It's like kind of a beautiful gatefold. It's got like, for the nerds, it's got like an Obi. All their records have Obi strips, and all their inner sleeves are the same.
Right.
Every single inner sleeve on the label is the same. So you're sort of really buying into their aesthetic.
Yeah.
And so I've only got like 4 or 5 of the albums on the label. I just, over my life, I will slowly pick them up. But like, I fall in love with the physical version of this record and all 6 sides of the music in a way that I would never fall in love with it if it was a digital thing. Like, never.
That's interesting you should say that, man, because you turned me on to that record and I rate it a lot. I don't currently own it on vinyl. I've only streamed it on Spotify. I am going to buy it. I've been out of work, so I've not been buying a lot of records lately.
Yeah.
And I'd sort of rather get it ordered into my local record shop.
Yeah.
Than buy it on Amazon or whatever. But like, yeah, I've listened to it on Spotify and I have got a lot of joy out of it.
Yeah. Right.
So yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I can only speak for me.
But yeah, that is so much more satisfying than.
And it's just there. So I have like so I've got like a little box of records I have by the record player, like the new regular plays or the ones I want to be checking out, more recent things.
Yeah.
And this is always in that box. So I always
That's
like
butterscotch.
You are sorry?
Butterscotch, I think it's called. That one particular.
Oh, on here, yeah. There's
so cool.
Like, it's unbelievably good. And it's so I have it there, and it's like a reminder to listen to it. So I'm like, oh yeah, shit, I'm gonna get that out again. And I still get, if I get this record out, I still get excited getting it out and going, I cannot wait to put this on and listen to it or whatever.
Yeah. And you just don't get that when you're scrolling through.
Well, I've never done it, but I feel like it's not. I feel like it's probably not for me. That sort of, and then doesn't quite. I can't put it into words, but it's the physical feeling of owning it and then listening to it. And I think maybe it's a throwback to being 10 or whatever and picking up a Dire Straits album and getting so excited. And I don't know, but anyhow, I'm just saying that this label in particular is really like, it's called International Anthem. It's just really dragged me in over the last year into buying into like a almost sub pop style, like label identity.
Yeah.
I don't know. So
raw speed style.
Yeah, old school.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. So yeah, but you know, still, my boys have never bought any physical music in their whole entire life, and no matter what I do or say, makes no difference to them whatsoever. So. Yeah,
and you've got to think, like, I don't know, like Stan and Freddie's kids, that generation, what the hell are they going to be into? I don't even know if music, in the way that we currently recognise it, is going to be a thing. It'll be like weird virtual reality experiences that you download into your fucking brain chip.
I mean, like, is that I'm speaking like a massively old person, of course, but my worry for them. On music front, this is not one of my big worries for them. I've got way bigger worries than this. But one of my worries for them is like when they get to my sort of ripe old age, like in sort of 25 years time, and they hit like mid 40s and whatever else. How are they going to have that contact high that they would have had from music they listened to when they were 10? Because I just won't remember it. It's not gonna.
It's like me finding my fucking Wu-Tang CD at my mum's house. Like, it's not gonna happen. Spotify probably won't even exist in 10 years. You know. Exactly.
So where's? Am I being stupid? Like, what's gonna happen? How are they gonna go? Oh yeah, well, I remember. I used to like whatever Earl Sweatshirt or you know, Mastodon or whatever. But they just. I wonder if they'll remember it and it'll hit them and they'll scroll through their thingy and be able to play it again. Or whereas for me or you or whoever has been buying the physical media can scroll through and go, oh yeah, here's my Taylor Swift album or whatever in 40 years time. You know, you're going to be in an old people's home one day. You need to be able to remember what you were listening to when you were 10. You know? I don't know. Man. Yeah.
Fuck knows.
Oh, what a way! What a way to be on a Sunday night. Is it a Sunday night?
Sunday night, 20 past 8. Yeah. Good bedtime.
So have you got any more records to show? Are we done?
I have one more record to show.
Go for it, please. A positive one, please. Something positive, something marvelous.
Yeah, I think we can end on a positive note.
Good.
I think it's very positive and marvelous. So this is Bright Phoebus.
Okay.
By Lal and Mike Waterson.
Oh.
Do you know this record?
I don't think I do.
I've got so much time for it, man. So, are you familiar with the Watersons?
I don't think I am.
So they were a folky group from like the 1960s, like the whole, you know, the kind of like folk revival.
Yeah.
And so they were 3 siblings, 2 sisters and a brother, and then a cousin.
Mm.
And the siblings were orphans, and they were raised by their grandmother in Hull, like Throbbing Gristle.
Home of Throbbing Gristle.
Mm. And yes, and their grandmother taught them all these like really traditional English folk songs, and they were sort of darlings of the English folk revival because they sang these a cappella, super traditional folk songs. And all the beardy academic types were super into it.
Right.
And then they went off the radar for a little bit. And but they came back a few years later, I think 72, with Bright Phoebus. And that's 2 of the siblings, Lal and Mike.
Mm.
And instead of more of the same, like traditional English folk songs, like you can tell they'd been listening to a lot of Beatles and American country rock and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
And it's just the most singular, balmy kind of folk rock album you've ever heard. I think it's totally amazing. I'm kind of in love with it. Yeah, it's all on YouTube. I don't think it's on any of the streaming services for some reason, but you can find it on YouTube. Yeah, and it's folky and it's kind of mystical and weird. Yeah, and all the folky academic types hated it.
Good.
And also, it was complicated by the fact that, like, I think they printed 2,000 copies, and half of those were unplayable because they'd misaligned the little hole in the middle.
Right.
So it had the makings of a sort of lost classic record from the get-go, sort of thing. And you've got so you've got the Watersons, and then you've got the guitars are played by Richard Thompson from Fairport Convention and Martin Carthy from what are they called? Steel Eye Span.
Right. All right. Big players.
So guitars.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna lie, I'm quite drunk now, so I'm not going to do it justice by describing the music, and it's futile anyway. I just listen to it. I think it's super cool. Yeah, and I just like the story behind the record.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was reissued on Domino, I think, in 2017. But prior to that, it was like quite hard to come by.
And have you got the Domino version there then?
No, so this is an original. The label is Trailer.
Right.
Do you know that label?
No.
Well, me. And I think this album basically sunk the label because it was a huge flop.
Brilliant.
Yeah. And like, as a rule, I'm not bothered about like having first pressings or whatever. I'm happy with reissues.
Yeah,
but this record meant a lot to me when I first heard it. And just with, I don't know, the nature of it, it felt important to have that original artifact.
Ooh, where did you get it? Discogs?
Yeah, it was a Discogs job. I think it's the most I've spent on any record. I mean, I don't know if you can see, but it's got 20 pence written on the front in felt tip.
And how much did you pay?
Considerably more than that. And on the inside, you've got Newcastle upon Tyne City Libraries.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know, man. There's just such a weight of history behind it.
Yeah.
It's
Like
kind
when
of,
libraries did sell off all their records at one point, and
really
they were like 50p. I got my copy of Paul's Boutique as a 50p Berkhamsted library purchase.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, so they sold them all off like early 90s, I guess, when no one was buying records anymore. So maybe that's when that was 20p. And someone knew what they were buying.
Yeah. Quite possibly.
Yeah.
Yeah, someone on Discogs certainly knew what they were selling.
Yeah, everyone does. Everyone does.
Like me. But no, I love it. Yeah, check it out.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I would be very surprised if Richard Dawson wasn't heavily into this record at some point.
Right, so they're Hull, and is he Newcastle? Or is it from near?
He's like like northeast sort of thing, but
yeah. Right.
Yeah. I wish I could do it more justice, but I'm tired and a little bit drunk. So
no, you've done a bang up job.
Cheers, mate.
Well, Mr. Will Pearce, should we call it a night then?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have a bath.
That's a lovely story. Put John Peel on.
I will. Oh, I wish I could.
So what we do is we wave goodbye, and I press stop while we're waving.
Okay, let's do that.
We can carry on talking after for a minute.
Okay.
Don't just disappear, but we'll wave.
All right.
Bye-bye.